Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a replay of my most recent match in the Vega Battlegrounds Championships. This latest iteration of the tournament is called the Grandmaster's Cup because every week there is a prominent community member who is selected to be the Grandmaster and change the rules of Battlegrounds to make things interesting. We'll get to that in a second, but this is going to be the second week of the tournament and I'm going up against Simula67. Simula is a wonderful guy. He's got an amazing channel. If you're looking for some guides on stuff like the Karina's challenges or how to fight Citalis, he's just got some great gameplay. Some of his champions that he's ranked up, like King Groot and Void, he is absolutely proficient with. He's also an amazing Scorpion player, I know. So he's just got a lot going for him, and he is currently in SSX1, my former alliance, and he just concluded a deathless season on the way to Masters. So, you know, obviously he's a bit of a force to be reckoned with, and, you know, I was pretty nervous going into this one. Props to Simula. He was actually able to get a stream going for this one. Unfortunately, the only time that we were able to find that we were both available, I was actually playing in my car after a gig. So I was under pressure in a weird way because I wanted to get home after the gig, but at the same time I was not streaming, and I know that when you stream you get, you know, there's a different pressure going on there. So props to him for doing that to entertain his followers, even though I wasn't. But I did want to get this replay up there with all the commentary. I also didn't want it to go too long, so that's why I've just kind of had the draft going on in the background. Now, the Grandmaster for this week is none other than Cat Murdock. Wonderful community member, amazing artist, just brings so much joy to all of us in the MCOC community. And she actually picked some bans and some whitelists that helped me personally out very well. Obviously, she didn't do it specifically for me, but it did feel like a little bit of a boost to my situation since my account isn't as large as some of these folks in the tournament. But essentially, Galen and Hercules are completely blacklisted. You cannot even have them in your deck. And that really works to my favor because my Hercules is not duped. So typically my rank 3 unduped Hercules is not in my deck, and I actually don't have Galen at all. So even last week against PWF, I was pretty frequently banning those two champions, and the fact that Simula wasn't, I don't even know if he has them, but the fact that I didn't have to worry about them allowed me to ban some other champions as well. Now, the other two champions that were whitelisted, you cannot ban them. I actually drafted this time. One of them is Nova, and one of them is Hood. So this is going to be a best of 3, and as you can see, I have sort of a mix of some defenders and attackers, and I kind of like my draft. I really feel like there were a bunch of like dual threats here, and looking at who he had, I noticed he didn't really have a Nova counter except for Mojo, and that also he has 3 Mystics. So by placing Nova, I was kind of hoping that he would just fight him with Mojo, and then at least I'd only have 2 Mystics to deal with, and I had 2 Science. That was kind of the way that I would go, and I think he was kind of thinking the same way in that, you know, he has 3 Mystics. He wanted to play one first to bait out one of my Science champions. So I decided to go with Overseer, and then obviously the Nova play had him thinking because he had a last minute switch to Scorpion, which I don't know if that was intentional or not. But I definitely have a favorable matchup here. With Overseer versus Man-Thing. So Overseer is a new rank 4 for me. I've been watching B McGee's channel for a long time and obviously know how powerful this guy is. But the thing with him is if you have him awakened, just Sig 1, just look at that gamma power. Every time something is happening, anytime he tries to nullify, anytime he tries to poison us, the gamma is, we're already at 6 gamma. And that's the Sig 1 ability, or maybe it's 5. I can't really see the screen, but either way, we've got a ton of gamma, and when we fire this off, we're going to already be going into cosmic mode, like 4 combos into this thing, and that's the beauty of like, you know, using Maestro against like, you know, Man-Thing or I-Bomb or someone who's either going to be like nullifying or poisoning you. And then we're seeing most of the damage that I'm doing is off of the light attacks in Cosmic Mode, which, you know, this Fury is ginormous from Cosmic Mode, and it's going to last a really long time because we had 6 Gamma. I probably could have finished him off there, but I knew this was such a favorable matchup that it was worth delaying a couple extra seconds and baiting that special just in case. But like I said, that was basically just the light attacks. It wasn't even the retaliation damage. As much as it was, you know, if you do light attacks in Cosmic Mode, you get that huge burst damage, especially with the rank 4. And we can see that even though Scorpion versus Nova is not favorable, Simula did quite well there, so it's actually a good thing that I finished it as fast as I did, because if I had lost that round, this would have definitely been a big loss for me, because he was going to win at least one matchup. So he places Rintra, and I decided to place Kingpin because I didn't really see a need for Kingpin on offense, and he definitely is a little annoying in this meta because he is going to be gaining a little bit of power, and it's just a little annoying. So he has Hulkling. Hulkling is basically a cheat code in this meta. So I'm already thinking in the back of my head that he's probably going to win. However, you know, Kingpin can do some crazy things that are really annoying. Like if he goes into overpower and throws a special 2, you can get really screwed. And I'm very confident with Scorpion against Rintra, even though Rintra is also annoying in this meta. So I usually go for Poison against Rintra just because it'll basically stop any healing, as well as, you know, the poison damage, which he's not immune to. So the way I like to start with Scorpion, we're going to see I don't do anything fancy. I just do medium, and then, you know, he throws a special, which is really nice right there. So that was already a nice chunk of damage, and then I'm going to do a heavy attack to knock him down. That keeps the mystical charges in check. And my Battlegrounds rotation for this guy is generally special 2 first and then special 1. Now, I like to throw the special 2 with a little bit more of the poisons, but, you know, we're not doing anything fancy. We're not doing any intercepts. What the special 2 does is it puts the Petrify on, and our Sig ability is just going to basically off of the willpower healing. We're just going to stay at 100% health for the rest of the match, basically. And then, you know, my goal is to just stack these poisons and have him kill himself. And keep the mystical charges down. Obviously, if he gets to 10, he can go unstoppable. And the other thing that the special 2 did is it refreshes all of the poisons that are on him, and that's very valuable. So, like, if I had had a better tempo in this fight, notice he has 10 mystical charges, so he goes unblockable. We have to kind of take care of that. If I played this a little bit more aggressively and I had thrown the special 2 with like 8 poisons, then all of those would be refreshed, and then I could start spamming my special 1s and having a really good time. But the issue here really comes down to just how much power he's getting and how many specials I'm baiting. I am not comfortable with baiting that special 2 in a way where I can punish it. I have not practiced that. That's sort of what separates the best Battleground players from people like me who are good at the game, but I don't really practice Battlegrounds that much. But I am pretty proud of that performance because, you know, finishing a fight against Rintra in this meta alone is quite good, and then finishing with 100% health. Obviously, Simula had like a near perfect Hulkling fight there, and I had no chance, but I do feel pretty good about my fight. I stayed in it, and now we have some decisions to make. You know, I could play Bishop, but I'm just seeing Nimrod completely destroying, you know, my Bishop. Even though Nimrod isn't the perfect counter to Bishop, he will be dead quickly, you know, and he will take some damage. But, you know, then if he plays Mojo, I'm also going to take some damage. And then interestingly, he places Nimrod there. I think he was thinking about who to fight Nimrod with. Honestly, I wonder if he went King Groot versus Nimrod, if that would have been better. And then if he had placed Mojo, I think that would have maybe been a little bit smarter, but it's so hard to make these decisions in the split second. Now, I have the advantage here because Hood is going to have plenty of buffs to deal with, and I think I make some mistakes here. So kind of like with the Scorpion fight, we're just doing medium. He's building a lot of power. I don't get my phase off in time, so we take a little bit of block damage there. Now, I want to get off a special 2. I also don't want to go red because that's just going to waste a bunch of time. So we throw this, and then at some point I need to detonate these hexes. Notice that the more hexes you have, it doesn't... There's no advantage to like saving your hexes. You can sort of detonate them more than once, and you don't lose any damage. So right there I took a combo or like a couple hits, and I'm thinking in my head that is going to be an L here, that taking that damage is bad. I think I was just nervous and I missed a parry. I don't think it was anything with the game or anything, but he's being a little annoying, and now that he's gaining power enough that like he's throwing these specials. I've got these hexes on him. I'm assuming that if I get to like 15, it'll kill him. But, you know, 13 didn't kill him. So now I got to figure something else out. And he hits me again. I don't know why on 2 occasions I just missed parries against this guy. But that special 2 takes him down. And now we just play the waiting game because it is pretty possible to end with like 100% health against Nimrod if you play better. But it looks like I had like a 30-second advantage there. I just kind of sped up the clip. And even though I didn't play that well, Hood was just fast enough that the health loss that I had didn't matter too much. And we ended up taking the first game. So I'm not super proud of that Hood fight, especially considering he's one of the featured champions of you know, not being banned and whatnot. Yeah, so let me talk a little bit of my bans here. I've been banning Quicksilver and Archangel. Simula had been hunting for Archangel for the longest time and finally picked him up. So I do feel a little bit like a dick banning him, but I intentionally don't have Archangel in my deck. I do have Torch because I like the science options, but I feel like I have enough mutants, and you know, Archangel, I'd rather have no one have Archangel than me have Archangel. I'll put it that way. I feel like my deck is versatile enough that I can get by without him. And the last time I did Void, but I decided to get rid of Long Shots just because Long Shot is like an automatic win against any Cosmic Champion, and he's not in my deck. So that's kind of why I decided to do that. So early in the draft, I go for Overseer and Domino. Just they are both amazing dual threat champions. That's something that Vega himself talks about a lot. If you've ever checked out his tier lists for Battlegrounds, it's usually a safe bet to go with, you know, even if you're not specifically countering like one champion, to just get a couple dual threats in your deck. That way you know you're not going to run out of defenders. Like if I have a crazy end of the draft and like I'm just playing catch up and trying to find counters for his guys, at least I know, you know, Overseer and Domino are decent enough defenders. So I decided to go for Mole Man just in case I have to fight Scorpion. And also because Mole Man is somewhat annoying on defense in this meta. You know, he is going to be gaining a little bit of power. And you can't really hit his block, which is a way to bait out specials. So that's kind of why I went that way. And then Omega Sentinel, mostly because she's a rank 4. You know, I always think it's good to draft rank 4s, even if you are not sure if they're going to come in handy. So we see Hood again. I didn't have a Mystic yet. And, you know, another strategy with drafting is to try to just get various class types covered. So you can see I already have 5 of the classes covered. I just don't have any Cosmics. And there's this Valkyrie who is just so good in this meta. I'm also hoping to get my Valkyrie out into the field, especially because he picks Thing. And I really luck out. I get one more draft choice, and it is Valkyrie, who I know is so good against the Thing. So now I'm covered for Thing. I'm not covered for Hulkling unless if I use my Hood. I'm assuming he's going to use Hulkling on offense. I also don't really have a Nick Fury counter unless if I use Domino. So, you know, I really just need to kind of go with the flow here and see who he's placing. So he gives me Thing right away, which means I'm definitely using Valkyrie. And I really thought about this, and I'm going Mole Man. I didn't think that he would use Valkyrie here at first, but then I remembered that she counters Unstoppable so that you can just hit the block. And he very smartly goes with Valkyrie. So now it's going to come down to a couple things because it's Valkyrie versus Valkyrie. I don't know if his Thing is rank 4 or not. I know that my Mole Man is rank 3, and even more importantly, Mole Man is actually not bleed immune, whereas Thing is. And those instant bleeds when you get the 3 pierce actually do a ton of damage. So I'm lucky in that I have class advantage, but I'm going to have to deal with protection. And he's lucky that he's going up against a rank 3 who is not bleed immune. So in this meta, this is important, I actually usually hit the opponent a couple times because I gain more power that way. Yes, you gain power by hitting the block, but I reverse my combo one time, which allows me to get 1 bulwark and 1 pierce, which means for the most part, I'm going to be winning the rich get richer battle for the entire match now. Now we're going to throw our first special 2. We're going to be able to do it with 2 pierce. Does a good amount of damage, and because she's Sig 200, we don't have to worry about any unstoppable. Right there, I don't know what happened. Just a little glitch. But yeah, so now we're going to do another special 2. This one is going to get 3 pierce, which is really nice. He goes passive. We throw it just in time. Look at these numbers, man. Like 10k into block off of these hits. It's pretty amazing. Now we follow up with a hit. I just don't want to get backed up. And then this should finish him, man. This should absolutely finish him. And that goes about as smoothly as you can expect against Thing. And the fact that I saw him still fighting was a really, really good sign because I did have a lot of health and I obviously finished faster than he did. Valkyrie is just so good. I'm scared going Valkyrie against Valkyrie, but we do barely clinch that one out. Fortunately. So I do think she's quite good for Thing. I think that's the best way to play her. Some people just start spamming into block immediately, but I would rather hit them a couple times, kind of set myself up, and then go for the special 2s, and it's still, you know, netted a really, really high score for me. And now I get to choose the defender. So I go with Havoc because looking over at his screen, except for Scorpion, he doesn't really have a Havoc counter. He can obviously nuke it with Hulkling, but I'm assuming he's saving Hulkling for the last round. And he places Nick, and now this is where I had to make a choice. I'm looking at my defender options, and if I give him Overseer or Omega Sentinel as a defender, I think that his Kingpin is just going to destroy either of them. So I decide to try my best with Omega Sentinel against this Nick, and he uses his Hulkling here, which means Hulkling is out of the picture for round 3, which is what I was hoping, because Hulkling is kind of a nightmare even with Hood on defense. Obviously Hood will get it done, but you're going to probably take some damage and whatnot. And then also, if he had Hulkling on attack, I think he could take down any of my defenders, even Domino. So now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm kind of assuming I'm not going to win this one. And I actually kind of die in pretty silly fashion. Even though I feel like I'm kind of setting this up correctly. You know, we got the heal blocks and we got the incinerates on him, so you know things are looking pretty good. That we'll be able to get through the first life, and you know if you have like perfect timing, there's actually a way to heal block him if you finish your combo at like the perfect time. But right there, I did the thing where I didn't realize that I parried him, and then I dashed out and dashed in, which was a really, really bad idea. That's just a reflex. I've done that before in war, and it's just something I got to work on. But you know what? I ended the pain early because there was no way I was beating Hulkling in this fight. So you know what? I did everybody a favor by dying, and we just got to move on. And now I'm thinking about I'm gonna place Domino, and hopefully she will do her job, and that no matter who he places, I'll win because I've got Overseer for Scarlet Witch. I've got Hood for Kingpin. And then, of course, he places Scorpion, who is probably the hardest defender there. But that means that he's got to use either Kingpin, which is a nightmare, or Scarlet Witch against this Domino. And I'm thinking in my head that I'm probably good here because Overseer is really tanky. I'm going to build a little bit of Gamma because he's going to be trying to put poisons on me off of the special 1 if I block some of it. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. But Scorpion, The way his 20 hit combo thing works is really annoying. I think it's a little underrated on defense because once that Scorpion Sense hits once, it's basically up for the entire fight unless if you just intentionally take an evade. And when he evades, you're always taking the combo after. He always is fast enough to punish you. And we're seeing right away, I'm not even able to get to the 20 combo right now. And then on the first hit, he evades us and crits. It's just so annoying, man. He's a really annoying defender if you don't have an evade counter, in my opinion. But I go for the Cosmic mode. And part of it is because in Cosmic mode, my special ones are going to be putting regen. So, you know, my hope is to kind of just, not slowly, but just steadily get him down and continually throw some special ones so that I can get a little bit of healing. And now, if I was really smart, I would have tried to put the Disorient on him. But we were not smart enough to put Disorient on him. That would have been the only way to really counter the evade. So I'm admitting that we're kind of YOLOing this fight a little bit. But the special ones are great. They have the guaranteed stun at the end, and we're still in Cosmic mode. We're just like pummeling into him. And then, you know, I fast forward a little bit. I saw that this Domino fight was taking a long time. And, you know, Scarlet Witch is amazing in this meta, but I don't think that she's beating Domino when she's got like a 75% chance for abilities, and then you subtract the 15% from Domino. She's going to be crit failing all over the place. And yeah, I feel bad because I know that Simula has like stickers and merch that says delete Domino, so I know how he feels about Domino, but I'm sorry, man. I've been getting all these SIGs from Battlegrounds, and I've been reinvesting them in my defenders, so that's why like Domino is almost SIG 200, and she did her job there, man. She absolutely did her job. So I'm changing up the bans here. Even though Hulkling is in my deck, he's a puny rank 3 unduped one. And I've noticed twice now that Hulkling is just an automatic win for this guy. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to ban Hulkling. It kind of thins out my deck a little bit, but in some ways that can be an advantage. Because like I said, Hulkling versus Hulkling, he's definitely going to win with his. So I get Rintra right out of the bat, and he's already got his Valkyrie and Nick, who are some of the best champions there. I decided to go with Elsa, my comfort pick, and then Kingpin is also just so good in this meta. I'm looking at these defenders, and I'm like, don't really have someone for Hyperion unless if I use Rintra, but I'm thinking of Rintra more as like a defender. Then we get Scorpion, we get our Nick Fury, who's only rank 3. You know, I'm just doing the best I can here. I'm not really seeing, you know, obvious counters yet to like a Nick Fury situation here. He's got Valkyrie, who can just beat anybody. She can even beat Rintra. And then he goes for the King there. And I bet he's really tempted to pick that Void, but we have some really good counters for Void, fortunately, if it comes down to it. So I go with Domino because she's been doing well for us so far. And then who do I go with here? I'm trying to gauge. I ended up going Mole Man for some reason. Looking at it again, I think I should have done Juggernaut. Maybe I ended up doing Juggernaut. No, I ended up going Omega Sentinel for some reason. Maybe I was worried he was going to place a Mutant. So I actually don't fully know what was going on in my head. But the way this one goes down, I think it would have been smarter to use Juggernaut there, perhaps. Either way, we'll give this our best shots. And this time we are going to start with Nick Fury as a defender. No, Rintra as a defender. Great. I'm having trouble remembering how this all went down. Reminder that this is best of 5, so it's the first one to get to the 3 matches is going to be the winner. And he goes with King Groot. So now I'm thinking of who I'm going to use for King Groot, and you know, I have to save Kingpin or Scorpion for Man-Thing. But he's also got Rintra, so I have to kind of save Scorpion for him. So that's why I decided to go Elsa. Because, but then I looked and I was like, oh man, he's got Void, and Elsa would have been perfect for Void. So like, I kind of was in this like chess match in my head. I was doing all the matchups, and like every time I matched one attacker with one defender, I was always like going to be one attacker short for the next one that I needed. So that really goes to show that Sim had a very, very good draft this time around. And you know, typically this is a really good matchup because he's extra large. And, you know, when he's in his regen phase, we're going to be placing a bunch of debuffs so that we can despair heal block him a little bit. But he's very passive, and that doesn't help with all this power gain. It just means we're going to have to be baiting special 2s, which are, they take a little bit longer, they take a little bit of block damage. So I'm trying my best to get just like the normal Elsa rotation, but, you know, a rank 4 King Groot just has a ton of health. And like I said, I'm trying to bait specials, and he's being extremely passive, like just threw a heavy there for no reason. He's willpower healing off of my 1 debuff on him, so I'm not even able to stack debuffs like I said I wanted to. So at this point, I'm figuring this is a loss, which is too bad because I always like kind of showcasing Elsa. But this kind of shows how, like, you know, even if you think you've got a good matchup, the AI can just kind of mess with your plans here. So there we finally get a big special 2. I wish more of those hits had crits, but we need to get back in there and, you know, take advantage of these behemoth busters. So that was good, but then, you know, he just held down his block again, and we lost an opportunity to really go to town there. Now he's melting away a little bit, but, you know, again, that power gain is just not very fun. And, you know, I'm looking at the writing on the wall that this isn't going well, and that this was just a really good placement, you know, because I don't know who else I could have used here, except for Kingpin would have been faster, but I needed Kingpin for some of the other defenders out there. And, you know, props to Simula for getting like a 52,000 against a Rintra with his Valkyrie. I would love to watch the replay of that fight to get him down in 60 seconds. I'm sure that was an incredible fight. So he ends up taking the early lead, even though we're up 2-0. You know, there's still a lot of match left to go, and momentum switch is something that can happen easily. Both of the first 2 games went all the way to 3 matches. So, you know, obviously it's been closer than the score would make you think, you know what I'm saying? Essentially, you know, I've won 4 matches and he's won 3 matches. Like, if you think of it that way, so this is pretty close to neck and neck. And if he ends up winning this whole round, then, you know, the pressure's on me because I think the momentum's going to shift. So I'm already getting a little nervous here. I decide to place Nick because I think Nick is my best defender remaining. And then, you know, my hope is that I would still have Domino to place in the last round. But I kept Domino in case I had to fight Nick. But then, of course, he uses Nick. So I'm like, well, I got to save my Scorpion. So I'm thinking ahead, like, I either have to place or use Kingpin or Scorpion in the last round because it's going to be like a man thing or a void or something. If I had Void, I'd probably want to use Scorpion because, you know, Kingpin's going to take damage with his Rage debuff. So all this is going on in my head, and I'm like, all right, the only way that this is going to work is if Hyperion plays ball. Right there, his combo timing did not match my dash back. That was on me. I'm loving all these crit failures, but, you know, those are more hurtful on defense than offense. And, you know, Domino's a rhythm champion, right? Like, you have to throw your specials when it's lucky and unlucky. And if you're constantly baiting, if he's constantly throwing heavies and stuff, you know, we're just in trouble. And I'm like, I know I'm going to eat this special 3, and I'm taking hits to boot. So, you know, just throw this and get the damage. And obviously, I'd love to, like, stun lock him or something. But, you know, the chances of that happening are pretty low. Fortunately, we win the mini game. We get the 20% damage, which I think that means we didn't die. I think if I didn't nail the mini game, we would have just died right there. So now, obviously, one more special 3, and we're totally toast. Yeah, this is not pretty. This did not go as I had planned it to go. So I throw the special 2. We get a critical bleed. So, you know, now he's going to die. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get him down if he just throws a special. Just please throw one special. But no, actually the bleed does a ton of work. And, you know, I was pretty sure that I lost, but I have to hand it to Simula because Nick versus Nick is not an obvious choice, but he persevered in that fight. I mean, unless if he died and came back, like it looked like he just beat Nick outright in his first life and still had like 75% health at the end, which, you know, Nick versus Nick, not a mutant, like dealing with the unblockable and the combo counting and the power gain. Again, fully deserved win there. And like I said, the momentum was beginning to shift because at this point, I think, you know, we had basically each won 4 games, right? Because I went 2-1, then I went 2-1, and then he went 0-2. So at this point, we're basically all tied up. And if he wins this round, then, you know, it's going to force a game 5, which I really don't want to deal with a game 5. I want to just end this now. So I'm really going to try to do everything in my power to just draft and try to end this thing, because I know how things go with comebacks, that, you know, the momentum is in his favor. So here, you know, I go for Nimrod, who's one of my newer champions, just because he covers a lot of ground and he just like discourages you from placing your mutants, right? So even if, you know, there's not a specific champion that we need to counter, you see that Nimrod, you're just like, well, I can't place any mutants because they're just toast. And then Kingpin has already proven to be a good defender, and, you know, on attack, he's definitely one of the fastest in this meta. Like, Kingpin just slaps in this meta. It's awesome. So I'm not very happy to see that he has Nick again. He's got Void, who's one of his comfort champs, and he's got Hood, who's just amazing. So I go for Domino because she's except for that hypo fight, she's been doing pretty well for me. I pick Mr. Negative because I feel like I need a science champ of some kind, and I don't know which ones I'm going to get later. So that's why I went that way. Now I'm interested to see what he does. I'm assuming Nimrod is coming out to fight my Domino, but he also goes Mephisto, which, you know, I have Scorpion, I have Mr. Negative, and I'm calculating in my head, like, how many of these science champs do I actually need? And I'm also looking at Dr. Doom. I'm just like, I think Doom is so good as a defender in this meta. You know, I just think like he can help me out on defense. And then again, Scorpion is just so good. So then now that I see the Korg, I'm very glad that I decided to keep my Doom. Obviously, I stopped banning Longshot. I've been banning Hulkling. Now he gets his torch, so that kind of destroys all my hopes and dreams of Doom being a good defender. And I just don't see myself using Doom on offense unless if I have to face that Hyperion. So, you know, there's a little bit going through my head here. I decided to go with Cersei there instead of Hyperion. I think Hyperion's a little bit better of an attacker, but I also just have a feeling that if he has like Void, that Hyperion's not going to be a threat. So that's why I went with Cersei, because she can be slightly annoying on defense, and that would basically bait out his Hood. So yeah, I don't know if this was my greatest draft ever, but I decide that I'm going to throw Doom first and make him use Torch. You know, but I bet he's also thinking like maybe I can save Torch and use Void here. But I was like, hey, this is going to be my chance to show off Mr. Negative, and, you know, maybe I can nuke down Mephisto before, you know, Torch, when there's a lot of power gain against Doom, is a little annoying. And, you know, if he like blocks a special 2 or something, that's a lot of block damage. So I do think that there's a chance that I can get out of this, but Mr. Negative is a new rank up for me, so I'm still kind of learning the best way to play him the fastest, and I think my lack of expertise with him is how I end up losing this round. So I have the buff imprisonment thing on me, so normally you would be like heavy attacking at the beginning of the fight to build your light energy, but I decide obviously I'm not going to be getting fury buffs, so I bank the 8 off of the parries. And now that the soul imprisonment is over, I can start heavy attacking. You know, I just want to kind of get to like, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 18 or something like that. And I really just have to watch out for the incinerates. I decided to bank it right there. And I guess I could have comboed into him a little bit more, but I am pretty sure if I bait one more special, that, or actually I just throw it right into him. So now we've got the Petrify on him, so his aura is not going to do any power gain. Now these degens, I love this about fighting Mephisto. They last long enough that they actually go through the regen phase, which means Despair blocks all of the healing. And now we just have to finish him off, but because we are not really built at all, we just have to kind of beat him with basic combos, because we don't really have it in us to do a whole other cycle with Mr. Negative. So I just use basic combos to get him down. And that makes me think that there's probably a way to kill him with the degen if you put it late enough that it continues to tick through the regen and then continues to tick him down after. But, you know, again, props to Simula there. He barely won that one, so I'm actually pretty proud of my negative skills there. But I'm just like, darn, that didn't work. It was sort of like a gamble there. But he obviously played well. He knows how to dex those specials against Dr. Doom, which is the big thing when using Torch, and he was able to get it down. Torch versus Doom in this meta, especially a rank 4, is not the easiest thing in the world, in my opinion. So I go for Kingpin here, and he goes for Nick. Now, I know that Domino is useless on my defense because he's got Nimrod. So this is the beauty of Domino. You know, I drafted her assuming that I would be placing her on defense. And what ends up happening is I use her on offense. And we're going to see how this goes, because he's got Kingpin, he's using Hyperion. And in my head, I'm seeing that not go well, because Kingpin makes you slow down. And in this meta, Hyperion is going to be gaining so much power that you're not going to have the rhythm with Hyperion, like of getting off special 2s. Like, you're probably going to get pushed red and have to deal with that. So we're going up against this Nick with Domino. And I think you're going to see how good she is on offense. Now, there's a decent amount of RNG involved with her, obviously. It's funny, right? Because her ability is luck, but you actually need luck to have her completely work out for you. So we're gonna throw a special 2. Unfortunately, we don't get lucky, but I got lucky because that was a huge critical bleed, and we are running deep wounds. That is a new addition to my mastery tree. But yeah, I'm trying to be aggressive because you want to get him into that second life as fast as possible. That buys you a little bit of time, because then, you know, if you have to bait a special, you know that he's going to be ticking himself down. If you're baiting a special when he's at like 1% health and he's not yet in the second life, you're wasting time, right? So that's why I went for that special 1. I'm like, let's just knock this guy into his second life. Fortunately, he throws a special. I've had a lot of trouble with this guy being passive, and now I'm really hoping that this kills him, and of course it doesn't. If he throws a special 1, we're a little screwed, so we just decide to take the block damage, and then I YOLO the ending, because I kind of figured that was the only way we were winning. And again, so relieved to see that he was still fighting Kingpin. You know, Kingpin is a nasty defender. He gets buffs of his own, and the Fury buffs, plus the increased combat power rate, and the fact that you can't really bait his special 2, because that's not what you want to do. It just totally screwed up the rhythm of Hyperion, and he wasn't able to get him down. So I feel great about Domino winning for me on defense earlier, winning for me on offense this time, and now it's 1-1. So it's all going to come down to this, because like I said, I do not want this to go to a to a 5th game. I think Simula is going to win if it goes to a 5th game. Like, he's clutched things like this out before. So I decided to go for Scorpion defense because, man, Scorpion is not fun to fight if you don't have an evade counter. And he's pretty forced here to place Nimrod. So this is mine to lose, right? This is on paper. There's no way I'm losing unless if I do something wrong. And what you're going to see happen here is absolutely ridiculous. I almost completely blew it. So I start off with a heavy attack, because that means I get both glancing and transmutation, which means the rich get richer battle is in my favor. It just allows us to get like a ton of these, and then, you know, as he gets armor, we're also getting the transmutation. So we're able to throw this with a ton of furies. We get a giant crit. Everything's good. Now, the power gain's an issue. The power gain's an issue here. because he's got a lot of buffs. Like he's got that energize, and now he's got an unstoppable and armor, so he's going to continually be gaining power. And I had all those wonderful furies, and I wasn't able to cash them in. So I'm being very risky here, and I decide to go for the YOLO finish. We throw it unblockable. We get the stun. We go in, and none of them really crit. So that was a huge judgment mistake, right? Because like I said, this fight was ours to lose, and if I had just baited that special and been like, hey, you know what? Who cares about the Furies? It's gonna be fine. I think we would have been fine. But now I'm starting to really sweat because Scorpion is annoying, but he's not that annoying. So now I'm just holding my breath, right? Because I totally screwed that up. But holy, they end up being pretty close to the same amount of time. But Scorpion obviously did something to Simula there that was really demoralizing and got him down. So that's the thing with this mode, man, is you got to stick with it to the end. And I think both of us didn't in this match. You know, I was like, I have to get this over fast, and I almost took 2 special 3s, which is absolutely unforgivable, right? And then, you know, I don't know what happened in his match, but, you know, obviously Scorpion evaded him or something, and things got out of hand. So I'm very grateful because I almost blew it at the end there, but I was able to squeak it out. But like I said, this was so freaking close. Like I won 6 matches and he won 5 matches. Even though it was 3-1, you know, he swept me in that 3rd game. So in my opinion, this was very close, and I can tell you by like what my heart rate was throughout this whole thing that I was pretty nervous the whole time, and I think he played really well. So going into the final week of the group stage, I am 1-1 now, which means I'm going up against Super Sam from 4Loki, and I believe if I beat him that I will auto advance. Potentially though, because there is a chance that if PWF also wins, that I won't make it as well. So I guess I'll be rooting for Simula to beat PWF, and hopefully I can beat Super Sam, and then we'll advance. But if not, it has been really fun. Even with the loss last week, I had a blast. I really enjoyed the competition, and doing it with great people really helps as well. So that's going to do it for now. This was a longer one. I mostly do these so that they're sort of archived, so that if you want to come check it out later, you can see it. I don't expect people to sit through the entire 40 minutes, but if you did, congratulations. I really appreciate you. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And that's going to do it for today. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll catch you in the next one.